Namaste, good morning. The subject is, I think, the key to integral yoga. Okay. Or the keys to integral yoga. And there is not one key, but many keys that are given to us. There is one master key, and there are many keys because we can enter the mansion of the Lord, the chamber of the Divine Beloved, through many doors. Each door has its own unique key through which we can enter, approaching from this aspect or the other aspect. But by the very nature of the integral yoga, it is best if we can integrate all of them in the fullness of the divine realization. As Sri Aurobindo says, we are not called upon to speculate intellectually on these things. And he also cautions us that the goal of this yoga is not to become a superman, a supramental being, or a great yogi. These things are the results of the yoga, which is up to the divine to grant, not grant, and their purpose is basically so that we grow into oneness with the divine. We live in the divine, we live for the divine, we live by the divine. There are some beautiful terms that Sri Aurobindo has used in the synthesis when he speaks about the goals of the yoga. Samipya, to be near the divine, not outwardly but inwardly. Salokya, to be in the same status as the divine, the same plane, to dwell with the divine, wherever we are. Sadrishya, so that we grow in the likeness of the divine. Sadharma, so that our nature begins to have the same nature as the divine's nature. So, these are the things that grow as we grow into nearness and union with the divine. And the comprehensive term for all these things is the supramental, because in the supermind itself we find that unity which fuses many sides of the divine realization. Otherwise, we have one-sided experiences, realizations of the divine. And we know that each of them can become a whole school, a sect, a cult, an approach. But Sri Aurobindo wants us to have the fullness of the divine. And therefore, the integral, the word integral means that by its very nature. But nevertheless, we can start with any of these keys, and to my mind, the key that the image flashes of the mansion of the divine as the Matri Mandir, or let's put it like that, the symbol of the mother. So the symbol of the mother is that there are 12 petals through which we enter. We can pick up any of these qualities and take it to its extreme. We'll touch the divine. It's very interesting because if you go back to the scriptures of the Sanatana Dharma, at one place Sri Aurobindo says that in Indian thought, people loved extreme. You take anything to its ultimate extreme, to its absoluteness. Take the story of Harishchandra. He practices only one quality, mainly truthfulness. Subordinates everything to it. And he goes to that extent that even in dream he has promised something. And he must give it. He has promised it in his dream. There is no witness. And when the seer comes, Vishwamitra, to ask what has been promised in the dream, he doesn't flinch but gets up and says, "This is yours," and takes it to what extreme? Similarly, there are stories of love. Savitri itself, what an extreme of love, where you plunge into death and take the challenge. So any quality, if we can develop it to its utmost, we will touch the divine. And ultimately, many of these processes of yoga are meant to do that. For instance, one of them is key process is concentration. Even in life, nothing can be achieved without concentration. So what concentration means? Well, since we are using the word key, if we ever see anyone making a key, I don't know if anybody has seen someone making a key, not in factories, but a duplicate key. Okay? There's a place in Pondicherry where you need not lose the key to find it. You go there and watch. Everything is such a learning experience. So what does he do? He sees the key or the mold, the lock, and then he has raw material. He fits in and he knows where all it needs to be polished. And then he gets about his job. Every groove must fit correctly and rightly. And there is no scope of even smallest of flaws. So there are people, I know myself, who will make the key for the most difficult locks. How do they do it? Even the smallest detail they don't miss. And so that requires a kind of concentration in ordinary life upon whatever we want to achieve. And with regard to the divine, concentration upon the divine. When we concentrate upon the divine, that energy through which we concentrate becomes like a laser beam. Thought concentrated becomes one idea. Idea concentrated. One day pierces through the magic circle. And the doors to infinity open. Normally, thought is discursive. All the time it is going into all kinds of directions. Jumping from one to another. We have already spoken about it. So, heart, emotions, tied by 100 strings, attached to so many things. Not only we are attached to people, we are attached to places, we are attached to objects, we are attached to food, so many things. But when we draw all of them and turn this energy of emotions onto that one face behind all the faces we love or long to love, then it becomes like a laser and it cuts through the magic layer, magic fence which nature has built, the fence of ignorance, and we have the contact with the divine beloved. Similarly with life, concentrate all the energies of life, gather them back, pratyahar, from all the desires and efforts, and on one single effort to serve the divine, to find the divine, and it opens the door. So this is how one makes the key, by potentiating. The raw material is the same. Everybody has that. Concentrate the will toward the divine, it becomes omnipotent. Concentrate the will in desires, it becomes many desires as it is described. It becomes, all the time struggling to achieve this or achieve that. So this is the basic process. Similarly, when we use the word purification, what is purification? The same energy is being refined. Take it to its utmost, you will touch the divine. It's refinement, constant refinement. So we know that as we refine anything, it becomes more and more powerful. That is the principle of homeopathy. It's not many. The magic is not in numbers. Magic is in quality. One lion, one elephant. So that's, has something very powerful and beautiful. So this quality is created by refining. Every tendency, every energy has its crude, gross action. And when we refine it, slowly, it becomes more and more capable of a divine action. And this whole process of psychicization, spiritualization, eventually supramentalization is, take the energy of love, it has a very crude action. Mother describes it as the ladder of love. Do you love me? Yes. Okay, then maybe I'll love you. That's how it starts. Then it goes to next step. I will love you, but I want love from you. Most human nature will stop with one of these two levels. Third is, I love you, irrespective of whether you love me or not, but please do acknowledge. Time to time you must say. That's required. That's the love which mothers have for their children. In human relations, very difficult to have that. So, then the fourth level is, doesn't matter. You acknowledge or you don't acknowledge. My nature is to love. What can one do? So one loves, regardless of return, regardless of anything coming back. And then one simply loves because one has become love. And then it bursts into the whole creation. So you see how it becomes more and more refined. So when the desire element goes away, the ego element goes away, when all these cravings, lusts, all these go away, the same energy. We are not to discard anything. This idea that we must outwardly renounce and therefore go into a forest is an old idea, because we carry our nature in the forest. We don't escape our nature. That's the story of King Shikhidhwaj and his wife Chudala. Chudala is a realized lady, and Shikhidhwaj marries her not because she is realized, but because she is beautiful. And she is both. So he marries her, and he is obviously his relation with her is purely based on the physical form, the body. But for Chudala, she lives in a very different state of consciousness. She knows he'll outgrow this. So after some time, he outgrows. So when he outgrows, then slowly he starts feeling what is this world. He starts feeling experiences, detachment, when we are disappointed. So he says, I want to go to forest. So Chudala knows this also is a stage. Says, okay, I'll govern the kingdom. So he goes to the forest. Then after some years, this lady knows that now the time has come to wake him up. So she goes there and talks to him. She changes, she assumes the attire of a young mendicant and goes and asks him, so what are you doing? He says, I am trying to find God. Oh, okay. So what have you done for that? I have renounced everything for God. So what have you renounced? I have renounced my kingdom. So she said, oh, it was yours? Now he's in for a little shock. I have left my wife. Oh, she was yours? I don't stay at one place, I wander. Oh, so you mean that places where you stay are yours, even if temporarily? So he's on the verge of, he says, what shall I do now? Okay, this is my dress. I am going to take it off. He says, is this yours? And then he says, I'll jump off the cliff and leave my body. She says, fool, don't you understand that by leaving things outwardly, you don't realize it is that inner leaving that is required. And then he has the realization, they come back, and then they have in the real terms, and they lived happily thereafter, because only two realized beings can live happily thereafter. So this is how the whole story goes. So basically when we refine, it's not renunciation means what? It means to renounce those things, those elements which distort, disturb, create turbulence. It's not to renounce attachment, is to discover love, recover love in all its purity. To renounce all these shreds of information on which we build systems of knowledge is to discover true wisdom. So this is how, these are the fundamentals through which we prepare the key. These are the basic practices: concentration, purification, renunciation. It's a lifelong thing, because always one can discover something or the other. In Savitri, we have a description which comes in book 3, canto 3. When Ashupati has already gone through all the planes of consciousness, he has stood at the doors of the unknowable. He has entered into the heart of the Divine Mother. And then he discovered there are still some impurities left. And then Sri Aurobindo writes, lest this small little grains of imperfection through which truth which comes could stumble in. That's how they are there in the subconscious nature. So he says, at that point of time, he tore desire up from its bleeding roots and offered to the gods the vacant place. At last a mighty transformation came. His soul was all in front, like a sea. This is the basis of the new creation. Without that, we'll only be talking about the new creation while coloring the old and giving it, like fashion. You go from bell bottom back to bell bottom and call it plazo. Okay, so that's how the I'm sorry if I have used the wrong word. I don't claim knowledge about these things, but I claim no knowledge, in fact. So, but anyways, so this is how we sometimes talk about the new creation by coloring the old. But that's not what Sri Aurobindo wants. He does not want to put the old wine in a new bottle. Very nice bottle. He says, I don't want to give my sanction to the old fiasco. This has been the reason why these movements have collapsed. There have been movements. For instance, look at what happened. Sikh society, Sri Aurobindo says Sikh, okay, that they were the people who tried to create a spiritualized society. Sri Aurobindo endorses in the beginning. And now it becomes a Sikh society, simply because it has lost that inner thing, and look at where it has collapsed, to what point. Look at any movements. He says, I don't want to give a sanction to that. And that's why no new religions, etc. So having said this, with this background, we can come to one key after another very quickly. So these are, we know, the 12 qualities through which we can enter into the doors of the divine. So the number one in terms of list the mother places is sincerity. She says, if there is no sincerity, don't touch yoga. It's like a fire that will burn, scorch. And sincerity means central sincerity should be there. Why we are seeking the yoga? If it is to become Superman, supramental being, to become a yogi, tapasvi, Swamiji, and whatever else, Guruji, all kinds of things, lecturer, teacher of integral yoga, scholar, whatever it be, then we are in for trouble. So, divine for the sake of the divine is the central sincerity. And the mother would say, if you don't have it, don't touch the yoga, because it's a fire that will burn. And once you have turned to the divine and said, yes, that I want to be yours, and the divine has said yes, then nothing in the world can separate you from him. So that's why sincerity is the most important. The mother has described it as transparency. No show and shams, which we are so accustomed to doing. We put up as Sri Aurobindo says in the synthesis, that we put up unconsciously almost the dress that will draw admiration from whatever group we are in. Look at the order of monks, with all due respect. For one Vivekananda, on whom the orange robe was absolutely perfect symbol of sacrifice. The color orange is about sacrifice, the color of sacrifice. Kesariya. But Gherwa, whatever way. But for many, it is the dress which spontaneously draws admiration, or okay, Guruji, Swamiji, whatever we may be inwardly. So very unconsciously these things happen. So we should be very careful that, all show and sham, all hypocrisy is contrary to spiritual life. And for the supramental life, the mother says the one thing that it will throw out is hypocrisy. All else can be transformed, but she says hypocrisy particularly. So any kind of show and sham, trying to impress, all these are part of that whole thing, sincerity. So be transparent before the divine. Tell the divine whatever is there inside. Don't try to hide from the divine, deceive the divine, because he knows the motives. Why does he want us to tell? To know how much we know, how much we are conscious. Because it's only when we become conscious then the yoga takes place. So sincerity is a fundamental quality, and what goes along with that is humility. Sri Aurobindo's one of the letters is, humility is a sine qua non before in spiritual life. Why? Because, you see, if I believe I know, then the Lord will say, all right, be with your knowledge. We have spoken so much about it, about that philosopher, and this is the problem with very well-read people. It's very difficult to turn them to the divine. And Sri Ramakrishna says something very interesting, which has been endorsed by Sri Aurobindo, that there are two for whom there is hope. One, the unlettered peasant. He said, I don't know. Unlettered peasant. And see, she's Sri Ramakrishna's own example. Unlettered peasant. I mean, he knew vernacular, but hardly. I think 6th standard he studied. But what a knowledge. If you read his Kathamrit, I mean, they're just conversation. Vivekananda, who thundered in Chicago, and when people asked him, "Oh, you're so good," he says, "Oh, you don't know my Guru. He can create hundreds of Vivekanandas." And yet, outwardly, unlettered peasant. And the other, those who having read everything, yet they feel it is inadequate. It means that even if one has read all the Shastras, Vedas, Upanishads, Gita, the Bible, the Quran, and God knows every possible scripture, and he says something else, something is missing. I need to seek more, seek beyond. For these two, there is hope. For the rest, one is caught in that, So that's why humility is so important. Having read everything, still this idea that I do not know. This humility has nothing to do with before people, "Oh, I don't know anything." Then inside one is thinking, "Yes, of course I know." How it gets bursted. "I don't know anything." And then if the other person says, "You were saying something, don't you think that is absurd?" You call me absurd, and you don't know what I have read. So it takes a minute to puncture bubbles. So humility is before the divine. Whatever one may know is nothing compared to what can be known. And when we approach Sri Aurobindo and the Mother, the Master, the Guru, this way, rather than, I have read some strange things. One of the books I read, not read, but it came across my hand and I just flipped across because a chapter drew me, and it was situating Sri Aurobindo. I was, surprised that somebody has to be very high grade, God knows what, to situate Sri Aurobindo where he should be in the realms of consciousness and the hierarchy of consciousness. I said, thank God. God, you saved me from becoming one such type. Academicians, scholars. Hasmukh Bhai told me that, you people are scholars, and, well, please, sir. Child is good enough. So this should be before the divine, humility. And then another thing which is most important as a key is aspiration. We spoke about it yesterday. Without aspiration, one doesn't move. And what does aspiration mean? It accepts no obstacle. Doesn't matter. Even if the world is refusing the divine, even if there is darkness, what will aspiration do? It will keep intensifying the light. Someone said it in another context, but one can apply it. So the context was that someone says, love is the best medicine. And the person said, what if it doesn't work? So the reply was, increase the dose. So aspiration opens the door. What if it doesn't open? Intensify the aspiration. What about everything is obstructing it? Intensify the aspiration still more. Should become a fire. We should become a fire completely, before which no obstacle. And if there is still something which is resisting, it means the fire is not yet strong enough. So aspiration is another, key that opens the door. And along with aspiration goes courage. Sri Aurobindo says that without courage, two things he says, most important, courage and love. At another place he says faith. They alone can save the soul alive. So this courage is so important, because when we move along life, courage is important even for life, I think. And so beautifully the Upanishad puts it, na yamatma balhine. This yoga is not for the weak. Courage implies taking the challenge of the unknown. Courage implies entering the ocean. We don't know where we are going to fall. And yet it is courage that takes the leap. What may happen? We may drown. All right, it's worth the effort. So courage implies, of course, along with courage, the fifth quality is prudence. So courage is not rashness. There is prudence. It doesn't mean that one just blindly throws into something. And at the same time, even one advances, courage makes us advance. It frees us of all fears. This may happen, that may happen. But at the same time, it takes enough. Prudence is about assessing things rightly. To give an example, that if faith cures. There is a very beautiful message in the ashram nursing home. So one starts with this, that okay, I have complete faith and it will cure me. Am I sure? Prudence will show us that no, in the body there is fear. Take a little bit of medicine, and this medicine can become something which can assist the healing process. It will also show that, probably I am being egoistic, that I want to show that I am not taking medicine. Probably I am being rigid. So prudence gives you a right understanding, a right assessment, keeps the balance of things. So along with courage, there is the need for prudence when we walk on the spiritual. Prudence is also helpful, that I just don't sway in any direction, anywhere and everywhere, just because there is, Kalanemi maybe sitting out there. We have alluded to the story of Kalanemi. Nowadays it's doing the WhatsApp round all over. So Kalanemi is somebody who assumes the form of Rama. Not Rama, but Ram Bhakt. So we should be very careful. Prudence will caution us. No, just because somebody writes before one center of divine something doesn't mean that prudence will make us careful. That look here, probably this is not the place where I should stray into. It also comes with discernment. Discernment helps us to understand these things. There are several markers for that. So along with prudence, one quality which is alone can take us very far and deep into the not just revelation of the divine, but action of the divine, it is peace. How beautifully Mother says, in peace and silence the eternal manifests. Allow nothing to disturb you and the eternal will manifest. Peace is the sign of the divine presence. Just as Ananda is the sign that the Divine Mother is around. Peace is the static aspect, Shiva. Whereas Ananda is the dynamic aspect of the divine. So peace is if there is peace, if we just cultivate peace, regardless of anything, everything. And Mother gives a very simple way. She just call peace as you call a friend. Peace, 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 shanti, 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 shanti. But that too, not like, shanti, shanti, where are you, shanti? Not agitated shanti. She will go away. She will say, this fellow doesn't know how to call me. Shanti, shanti, shanti. How beautifully we have grown up on the daily dose of these mantras. Antariksha shanti, Prithvi shanti, Akash shanti. How beautiful this word shanti, It's magic. Peace, peace, quietude, peace. And if we grow in peace, ultimately take peace, not the peace of the dead, but the peace, not Shava, but Shiva. And it can extend into every situation. Even in the worst of seemingly impossible situation in the battlefield. Peace, 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 peace. It's a magic remedy. Not only a remedy, it automatically puts us in contact with the divine presence. It's like a key. And all that it requires is to call it. Peace, peace. Get into the habit. Otherwise, what will happen is, if you are not in the habit and sometimes suddenly we remember, we are supposed to call peace, and then doubt, Mr. Doubt comes. I sure. The number was 911, not peace. Oh yes, I am doing the wrong thing. First aid is peace. This, as a doctor, I used to teach my students. First aid. If there's a snake bite, what will you do? Sir, we'll put a tourniquet, immobilize the part. I said, all wrong. First, practice immobility yourself. Be in peace. Then be mobile. Then do the rest. Because if you're in peace, you will transmit that peace. And that peace is healing. Peace is the matrix in which the divine consciousness works so beautifully, powerfully, magnificently. But if you are all the time disturbed, questioning, grumbling, complaining, then even when the divine consciousness is working, it has to first clear the field because it's full of turbulence. So peace. Resist all that takes away the peace. Stormy debates, animated discussions, trying to prove a point, so many things, storms of passions, gusts of lust and all these things, fear, doubt, so obviously, they should be cleared, and peace, peace, stay with peace. And with peace comes equanimity. One of the qualities on which Sri Aurobindo has written, I think perhaps in terms of chapter, definitely maximum chapters dedicated to equality in the synthesis of yoga. And of course, essays on the Gita. So much so that in ancient yogas it was said that samatvam yoga uchyate. If we are in a state of equality, we are in a state of yoga. And equality operates at all these three levels. Beautifully, Shri Krishna describes Shitoshna, whether the temperature is hot or cold. So I don't know whether air conditions and artificial means have done good to us from the yoga point of view. So that's why if you want to practice yoga, come to India. By living there, you will practice equality. Shitoshna. Even if you have AC, it may not work. You have no choice. No, now things are working okay in all. But still there are many people who don't use it. In ashram, most of the people don't use AC. And they're very fine with it. Never feel the... And in Pondicherry, heat. So, Shitoshna. Sukh dukheshu. Things may be pleasant, they may be painful. And we should remain in a sambhav. And there are various ways of cultivating it. It's a long topic. Sometimes one should have only, maybe it's a topic worth a whole seminar. How to cultivate equality. So much importance Sri Aurobindo is given. But three basic ways are to learn to endure the touches. Then the other is to face with a stoic calm. And the third is resignation to the divine will. Jis vidh rakho Ram. As you keep me, so I am happy. So this becomes, it's not shunning this. There are some people who make a fetish of detachment. So even when there is a bed, they will sleep on the floor. That's not equanimity. Equanimity is kaho to motiyan mang jadava, kaho chitkara kesh, which Mira's bhajan, that if you braid my hairs with pearls, I'll do it happily. But if I don't even have a string to tie around it, I'll leave my hairs flowing. Hair, not hair, sorry for the grammar. Let my hair flow. So this is, Karana fakiri fir kya dilegi. So equanimity is cultivated, and this comes very naturally. This is still the practice. It comes very naturally because one gets so much absorbed more and more in the divine that where is the time and energy to think about these things? Hani labho, one sees. Sukha dukheshu, hani labho. Profit and loss, one sees these things come and go. O queen, O king, the events that meet thee on thy road, though they touch thy body and mind with joy and grief, are not thy fate. They touch thee a while and pass. The road, the goal thou choosest are thy fate. If one is focused on the destination, then the things on the way don't matter. When one is going to Pondicherry, train stops, flight cancellations, all, it doesn't matter. One knows it's okay, I have to reach there, that's all. And when one is at the feet of the divine, bows at the samadhi, all is gone. One comes out and then says, how was the journey? Arey, theek hai. This happened, that happened. So there are various ways equanimity develops. So equanimity is, even for life, Sri Aurobindo says, especially in outer life, when one is leading a normal life, she says the one practice one should do is equality. Hani labho, jaya jayo, victory or defeat. In all these situations, to remain equanimous, knowing that the victory belongs to... There is a very beautiful poem of Sri Aurobindo, The Divine Worker. All poems are beautiful. But there he says that victory is thy passage, mirrored through fortune's glass. Failure is cradled on thy deathless arms. Look at, this is how the divine worker, those who work in the world, even for ordinary karma yoga, and of course in Sri Aurobindo's yoga, fundamentally the base on which the house of new creation can be built. If peace and equanimity, and the eighth one is endurance, if these things are not there, endurance is necessary because the path is not easy. It doesn't mean that we have to do some very difficult things. We have to endure the passage. When it is said the path is difficult, it doesn't mean that we have to do difficult thing. But human nature has to be changed. As we read yesterday, millenniums of muck which is lying here, it takes time to clean and cleanse. So we have to wait, go through the process. Sometimes very uncomfortable things will come out of ourselves, things which we saw in others. Oh, that fellow is like this. Oh, this fellow is like this. Then we will say one day, like Kabir, Bura jo dekhan main chala, mujhsa bura na koi. I wanted to see bad in others. Then God made me see all the evil of the world is harbored within us. It's a very sobering and intimidating experience when you see that all the tendencies are there in you. It's just a question of combination. So not try to become a sadhu bacha before the divine. He knows us. So they will come out, and what do we have to do? Mother says, share your own burden of the anti-divine and offer it to the mother. They can be when these serpents come out, which are hidden inside, the sewers flowing through, people see in dreams. Sewers flowing through, dirty roads, spoiled things. But that's a cleansing. Afterward, the garden will, then it will become a garden. But first the divine cleans. Like, we know the tennis ground in the ashram, how it was a sewer dump area. And government gave it for some very small lease, thinking what anybody can do with it. And the mother took it. And her children, Dada, Birenda, Udar, all these people, and they got together, cleaned it today. Just go and see it, something amazing. And mother has played tennis there. And thankfully now it has come to the ashram because it was on lease. So there was it's a prime property on the seashore. And there was a lot of pressure to take it away. But mother's grace, it is, now permanently with the ashram. But that's how things started. It's okay. Doesn't matter. Some people get into, who can't endure. They come. Orwell, for example. Somebody wrote a book. What is that book? Something. A Dream Gone, something. I don't know. Anybody remembers? So someone asked me my opinion. Or the utopia that never was, whatever it is. So somebody asked my opinion about the book. I said, see, that man is not meant for Orwell, that's all. He wants a ready-made utopia in which he can walk in and enjoy the pleasures like, the Arab Spring world. I said, that's not a utopia. Utopia you will enjoy when you have labored for it. Otherwise, you will not deserve it. Like the Rakshasas, Asuras who once went to heaven because Shiva, their mother's Diti, told them that, look, you are being partial to my children. Only Aditi's children are in heaven. My children are not. Shiva says, is that so? Okay, they can go also to heaven. How? Nothing. He presents himself as Somnatheshwara temple. Jyotirling. He says all that they got to do is offer some milk and they can walk into heaven. Now all the gods are in. What is this he has done? But Shiva is Shiva. Done is done. So they go offer and walk. So all the asuras enter into heaven. Now they are having a gala time. And all of them are asking Shiva, are you okay? Did you give this boon in one of your high states with, bhang? So he says, no, I know what I am doing. So they go there and he tells them, why are you people worried? You should share things. So when they go, one of them spots Kamadhenu, the cow which, can give whatever you desire. And now the fight begins. Who will own the Kamdhenu? So Indra comes and says, this is not a public property. This is a public, anybody can, who needs. It is not based on who owns the Kamdhenu. See, we are our own version of communism, okay? So anyway, this is not mine or yours. Even the state doesn't own it, okay? But Asura is an Asura. He must drag. It doesn't matter wherever you put him. So they start dragging, fighting, killing each other, and finally they are thrown out of the heaven. So Shiva says, what can I do? I made them walk in, but they want a ready-made utopia to enter. It doesn't work like that. You can't have we have to deserve it. So for that we have to endure. Those who do not endure, Mother says, victory comes to the most enduring. Another place she uses the word perseverance. This goes with endurance. Persevere, some equality which one learns from the crow. You see, shoo away the fellow 100 times. He will wait for the opportunity, come back. You put a little thing, he will come back. or even the fly, perseverance. So, the mosquito, perseverance. A whole night he won't let you sleep. All these gurus are found only in India. So, one mosquito will teach you a lesson which you cannot learn through deep study of yoga and giving lectures on yoga. The mosquito will teach you endurance, faith, everything. So, perseverance, how to persevere. 100 failures, continue 101 times. 1,000 times one falls, 1,001 times. So perseverance. And whoever has persevered, we know they have succeeded. Look at one of the things about Vishwamitra's story is this. The man falls, that's not important, but he rises again. Once somebody jokingly, I was heavy rain in Pondicherry and I was wearing those slippers, which rubber slippers. And as I was climbing up the dining room stairs, all water, I slipped and fell. But fell in a very nice way as if on a throne. So I got up again and again I tried and again I fell. So there was a lady who was standing down below. She said, great man has fallen. So I said, greatness is not in not falling. Greatness is in rising up every time you fall. So I said, in fact, if you have never fallen, you can never be qualified for greatness. That's the whole. Sri Aurobindo says, never fight under the banner of somebody who has never failed in life. Because he does not know how to lead, truly. So anyway, so this is a journey. One may fail, one may fall. All this is part of the journey. Not to be filled with guilt, condemning oneself, complaining against others, but to get up and... He told this to Niruddha. He said, oh Lord, this has happened, that has happened. He says, so why are you lamenting? Get up, brush your pants and walk again. At another time he says, I'm having this problem, that problem. He says, yes, I know. But you see, you have to go through this practice of equanimity. I did my share and passed MA. Now your turn. So all these things, the divine is not here to make our life comfortable, but to make us grow one with him. Which is very different from making it. Of course, we can take that attitude. Make my life comfortable. People can have that kind of relation and he'll do it. Artharthis. But artharthis, those who are seeking the divine for personal things, are not yet into yoga. We are talking about yoga. Yoga is jigyasu and jnani. Things begin to change there. So we see that, perseverance, endurance, they're all required. And then comes goodness. Mother has used the word goodness. Goodwill. We can use the word goodwill. That we don't want to harm somebody deliberately. We want the good of everyone. Yes, many times because we live in ignorance and there is a divine destiny and a higher plan which operates, and very often trying to do good, we may end up messing up like the surgeons. They have a license. I don't want to say for what, but it is done with goodness. I mean, I believe that. Most doctors still, have that basic goodness. So they are trying to do something good and yet things may not happen. So goodness is that where the best of that other person is in your heart. You are keeping his good in your heart. You are not acting to deliberately malign, to bring down with that intent. This is that intent where the goodness should be reflected. And along with that goodness comes another very important quality, and that is gratitude. Mother says gratitude and enthusiasm are two qualities which come straight from the psychic. In fact, human beings can be clearly seen from these two. The person who is awake in the soul is full of gratitude. Automatically, it's just there. And someone who is still asleep will say, it's my effort, it's my thing. But one who has this soul awake, she says that upon earth, it is the best expression in the material creation, this gratitude. And she says it is only its vibrations only a slight variation of the power of love. So love takes this form of gratitude in the heart. And of course, in the divine, in this context, it is gratitude towards the divine. And whatever brings us in some way or the other some glimpse of the divine. So this gratitude which is there toward the divine is a very beautiful motive power. So these are the qualities that we need to, whose key we need to make, through which we can enter. And any of these quality, particularly sincerity, humility is so important, vigilance, another quality which the mother tells us. So these are qualities which prevent us, make the journey safe. For instance, he says if there is lack of humility and instead there is vanity, then one is attacked by the hostile forces. They start making us filled with the idea of aggrandization, that I am someone special, somebody great, and etc. etc. Even I have met somebody, who said, I am supreme, I don't need anything in anyone else. So I said, okay, but will you take the medicines? So he said, but I am supreme. I said, yes, but does your supreme tell you to take the medicine? That's my question. He said, okay, if you give me, I'll take. I said, good, that's all. You be supreme, I have no problem. All is supreme, all are supreme. That's okay. As long as your supreme is fine with this, it's fine. So, it can lead to its imbalance of the mind takes place. Because if there is lack of humility, lack of vigilance, which she emphasizes so much. So all these and many more, Mother has spoken about these 12 qualities. She said there are many more. And they change as we grow in consciousness. So, because divine is Anant Gun. In Vedic times, they were known as gods. And here, the mother has made it God neutral or religion neutral. So they are the qualities. So they were godheads. Each godhead represented something who helped us in the journey. And then, of course, before we reach the doors of the sun, there are 4 main guardians of the gates of the sun. And we know that these 4 are Maheshwari, Mahakali, Mahalakshmi, Mahasaraswati. Here again we see that she has made the worship of these great cosmic powers religion neutral. So how do we worship Maheshwari? So she says that calm, wide. She stands on the heights, watches this play. She is full of peace. And yet she has a power which nothing can resist. That white light the mother speaks about. She says that great lady whose white light she knew right from childhood. Wisdom supernal, that's how one describes. Impartial in her dealings. Even her rejections are not rejections but postponements. She knows what she must do. So, to worship Maheshwari means to grow in all these qualities. She does not like when people are, like is a way of saying, very partial towards, oh, my relative, my jatwala, and my thiswala, and my thatwala. She lifts those. That's why, people who sit on the thrones, so they have to grow through that. We have the stories of Solomon, Vikramaditya. It's a very interesting story since we mentioned Vikramaditya, there is somebody who has to exceed the throne and Singhasan Batisi. So it's the throne of the great king who in far back times rendered justice very impartially. So as he wants to come to the throne, there are 32 dolls and each doll comes and says, I have a question to see whether you are ready for the throne or not. And she tells a story and he has to give the answer, and all the answers are wrong. At the end, she says, no, this is not the answer. This is how. So at the end, he says, I think I'm not capable of sitting on this throne. And then the 32 dolls says, now that you have the humility, you can come to the throne. Very beautiful. It's a tale of 32 Singhasan Batisi. A very beautiful set of stories for children. So this is, when we approach Maheshwari, we have to have those qualities. We have to develop those qualities to receive her blessing, her. But if we have the opposite, arrogance, we see in triple soul forces. I know it, I have made it, I can make artificial intelligence. What is God got to do with anything? God is only superfluous. So when we do when we have this kind of approach, then it's the Asura who is speaking. So in triple soul forces, we'll encounter these great goddesses. Similarly, Mahakali, what does she like? She likes that we are straightforward and frank, truthful, honest. And to those who are ready for it, strong. When we present ourselves before her, we don't say everything is fine, but please take care of this, don't do this, don't do. No, do's and don'ts. Then she acts. When she acts in her might, swiftly within a few moments we cross hurdles of centuries. What does she do? Slays the head, the ego. If we are not ready for it, we are not ready for entering the mansion of the Lord. That's why she changes time, Kali, rapid, frontal stroke, but deception, saying one thing, keeping something else in the heart, all these things are not dear to her. And if she comes, she is not going to spare. She is unsparing. She wakes with pain, if need be, the slumbering sadhak. So those who love Mahakali, when the pain comes, difficulty comes, they say it's a grace. That's how Mother says. Take all your difficulties and ordeals as a grace, and it will indeed be so. Those who are afraid of Mahakali, they'll say, why have you done this to me, Ma? So they take all this as grace. Then Mahalakshmi, of course, the most charming, most beautiful, most gracious, full of harmony and beauty and love that binds this. Even our weaknesses she uses to lift us towards the divine. So wherever there is beauty of thought, feelings, beauty in action, beauty in every gesture, posture, beauty in surroundings. So Mahalakshmi likes it. But where she sees that in the heart there is malice, there is jealousy, there is hatred, she is the shy goddess. She is not like Mahakali, frontal stroke. She goes behind, lets this poison stuff be released. So to worship Mahalakshmi, we have to cultivate. The very nice bhajan of Dujendra Lal Roy, which Sri Aurobindo has even translated, or Anil Baran translated into English. And he says that, Tumhe malin, I say in Hindi first, Tumhe, it originally is Bengali, then Hindi. Tumhe malinata nahi suhati, main malinya tajunga, satat purna vidhi nishkalank ho karma tumhe bhajunga. You don't like dirt inside. Okay, I'll cleanse myself within and outside in a proper and methodical way, vidhigvat. Then I'll sit at your altar and feel myself at least worthy to sit at your feet. That's Mahalakshmi. But when she acts, the heart is full of ananda. Where she presses her feet, course miraculous streams of an entrancing ananda. And beauty and harmony, she loves harmony. That's why Mother says, all that creates harmony is dear to her. And we see that Mahalakshmi's love extends to everything. Animals, to plants, and creation. And of course, Mahasaraswati, whose worship is by being meticulous and perfect in everything. And this perfection is not just material. Even our attitudes, inner states. We should not be doing it just to show that, see how neat and clean I have done it. It's not just about neatness and cleanliness. It's a total perfection. Like when we make a bonsai, we still keep the scissor that maybe this how I have conceived, maybe somebody else will make it even better. So this when we do all this, we stand at the gates of the Divine Mother, and she lets us in, and then all is beauty and bliss. Or else, as I said, there is a master key, and that master key is complete self-giving at her altar. As a great mystic has said, that there is a price to be paid to enter into the mansion of the Lord. Cut your head and keep it outside. Minimum is to keep the shoes outside. But maximum is to keep the head outside. And come and bow down and give oneself completely. Then one doesn't have to go through all this. So this is the background. Just one quickly, 5 minutes. I'll just 3-4 minutes. I want to read one passage of the Mother. So one of the qualities we have missed is receptivity and progress. So receptivity, when we give ourselves, we become receptive. If we have closed ourselves, we don't become receptive. We have to let things flow and give to the more we give to the divine, the more the pot is empty to receive more and more. So receptivity is important. Opening to the divine in a state of inner receptivity. The divine will give us, but if we have turned the patra, the pot upside down, if it is very small, narrow, then we will not receive much. So it's important to become wide, supple, to open toward the Divine Mother, and then we become receptive. But what I wish to read is, it is from the last conversation of the mother on the playground. So it's very beautiful, where after a long passage, she describes, in fact, the vast majority of men are like prisoners with all the doors and windows closed, so they suffocate, which is quite natural. So all our suffocation, basically stifling feeling, is because of this. A lot of youngsters go through it these days. But they have with them the key that opens the doors and windows, and they do not use it. So we are not left without the key. The key is given to us. Certainly there is a time when they don't know they have the key. But long after they have come to know it, long after they have been told about it, they hesitate to use it and doubt whether it has the power to open the doors and windows, or even that it is a good thing to open them. See the context, last talk on playground, after which she stopped going. And the mother was asked that, why have you stopped? She says, do you people really come to listen? Do you really want to listen? And then, this is Taradi's growing up with the mother, you see that. Then she says, no, mother, some of us want it. Then she became that Maheshwari, Mahalakshmi. Some of the thoughts and aphorisms, all that. But otherwise, she could see that people are not interested. So she says this, and when we see it, it's the state of the humanity in general, all of us. And even then they feel that after all, it might, even when they feel that after all, it might be good, there remains some fear. What will happen when these doors and windows are open? And they are afraid. They're afraid of being lost in the light and freedom. They're afraid of being lost in that light and freedom. They want to remain what they call themselves sanity. Someone asked Sri Ramakrishna that people say that people who see God like this are mad. He says, anyways, all are mad. Better to be dharma pagal, mad after the divine, than to be pagal after Kamini and Kanchan, than to be mad after money and all these things. They like their falsehood and their bondage. Something in them likes it and goes on clinging to it. They still have the impression that without their limits, they would no longer exist. So, without the name, without my designation, without the degree and whatever, blah, blah, blah. So we won't exist. Not realizing that then we will begin to exist in the true sense. So she closes this by saying, that is why the journey is so long. People often say it's a difficult yoga. No. We have made it difficult. The difficulty is in us, not in the yoga. That is why the journey is so long. That is why it is difficult. For if one truly consented to cease to exist, everything would become so easy, so swift, so luminous, so joyful. Even there, I want an experience. What should be a method and technique for me to have an experience? Me is continuing to saying me, 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 to be replaced by only one alphabet change. That to a vowel. Instead of me, it should be ma, 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 ma. What does it matter whether one has an experience, that, this, that, whatever it is. So to live with that. So she says that people are afraid. But perhaps not in the way. That is why the journey is so swift, so luminous, so joyful. But perhaps not in the way men understand joy and ease. So joyful, then, everything in my job will be success story. So she says, not that way, but you will be in that state of inner ananda and peace, regardless. And she'll take care of all your needs, regardless. This is the Yog Shem Vahamyam, the trust, the bond of trust that we forge with the divine. In truth, there are very few people who do not enjoy fighting. There are very few who could accept the absence of night. Few can conceive of light except as the opposite of darkness. Without shadows, there would be no picture. Without struggle, there would be no victory. Without suffering, there would be no joy. He says most people believe this. That is what they think. And so long as one thinks in this way, one is not yet born into the Spirit. Because being born into the Spirit is to move from joy to greater joy, from freedom to greater freedom. And the last sentence, though it may or may not be relevant here, but it's very touching, because this is the last conversation in the playground. She says, this is what they think, and so long as one thinks in this way, one is not yet born into the Spirit. And she used the word new birth. And yes, this is the last of the Wednesday conversations of the mother. Maybe with this thought, maybe all be born into the Spirit. We are already born into the Spirit. We have to just know it. So we have to just be born several times over, as the Vedic Rishi said. We have to grow in the Spirit, and we have to live in the Spirit, and we have to live for the joy of the Spirit and the freedom of the Spirit. That is the mother. Thank you.